Hi, my name is Jocelyn, and I am going to be talking about the 2018 Backstreet Boys cruise that I just recently went on. The cruise was from May 3rd to May 7th, and it sailed out of Miami, Florida. And the original itinerary was supposed to be, our port was in Grand Turk in the Turks and Caicos. However, due to weather conditions, the captain had said we needed to be rerouted to a different destination. So we ended up porting in Nassau, Bahamas. So I am going to talk about first the pre-sale party that I went to that Nick Carter of Backstreet Boys held on May 2nd. And then I will go through each day of the cruise and my personal experiences, plus any thoughts and opinions I had. So this cruise is my 6th Backstreet Boys cruise overall, and I've been on one New Kids on the Block cruise in 2016. So I have been on 7 cruises, and they have all been boy band related. So I really love boy bands, and Backstreet Boys, they are my number one. I've been a fan of theirs since 1997. I got hooked the moment I heard Quit Playing Games in its entirety. And that was back in 1997 when I was 11 years old. And now I am 32 years old and I still love them more than ever. So my favorite Backstreet Boy is Nick Carter. And Nick, he loves to hold events. I think out of all the Backstreet Boys, he does a lot more events and is always out there either having some sort of meet and greet or doing a show. So the day before we sailed on May 2nd, he had a pre-sale party at the Hard Rock Cafe in Miami. And of course, whenever Nick is involved, I like to go all out. So when his pre-sale party was announced, I immediately got VIP, which includes a meet and greet with Nick. And we also got one drink, a souvenir laminate pass, sunglasses. And so when I get there, it's Nick is mingling with fans, and then we line up to do a meet and greet and take a professional photo with him. When it was my turn, I go up to him and I say, "Hey Nick, long time no see," and he's like, "Yeah," and I tell him I can't believe it's our 6th cruise together, and he gives me a big, huge hug and cuddles me against him, and I'm all smiles in the picture. And so after he is done taking pictures with, I heard there were over or close to 200 fans who had VIP. So it took a while for him to get through everyone, but once he was done, he then did a short performance. He sang, I believe, 4 songs. He started off with 19 in 99 from his latest album, All American. And then he sang Sweat, As Long as You Love Me, Get Over Me. And his last song that he sang was I Want It That Way. I was amused when he told the DJ at the party to play Backstreet Boys' number one hit. And she questioned him and was like, which one? And he thought that was so funny that she could not figure out which one was Backstreet Boys' number one hit. And so the number one hit ended up being I Want It That Way. And a highlight for me during that performance was towards the end of the song, he saw me and he took my hand and sang a few lines to me. And so after that, the event was over and me and my friends, we lingered around, just catching up with each other. And then after that, went back to the hotel to do some finishing touches on packing for the cruise. So day one of the cruise, May 3rd, me and my friends, we get to the port around 10 a.m. And instead of going inside right away, we linger outside the port just to see if we can catch a glimpse of the boys arriving and boarding the ship. Sure enough, probably 15-20 minutes after we arrive, we see them arrive in a huge bus. It was them plus their crew. And we got to see them briefly walk through and enter the port. And then a few minutes later, we got to see them board the ship. And I remember seeing Nick wearing some sort of button-down fish print shirt that screamed tourist or some weird design. So after we saw them board, it was then our turn to board. And then once we are on the boat, we are greeted with a sign that says welcome aboard, and we see a poster of Backstreet Boys next to it. And of course, it's a great photo moment. So me and my friends, we spent some time taking group pictures, solo pictures in front of these signs, because on previous cruises, if you don't take a picture by a poster or a sign, probably by the next day or 2 days later, those signs will be gone. Either they get taken or somebody puts them in a different place where we don't know. And so after taking those pictures, we then head up to our cabins. So I like to go all out on the cruises. I like to book suites. And the reason I like to book suites is if you book a certain type of cabin, you get guaranteed a good seat. So for example, me and my two friends, Olga and Jen, and Kim, who unfortunately at the last minute had to back out, we booked a extended balcony suite. And if you book that suite, you are guaranteed to be in the first 3 rows during the concert and any events that happen in the showroom. So because we had that kind of suite, we were fortunate enough to get row A. We were kind of off to the side though once we got into the showroom, but I will get to that later. So our cabin was on deck 6, U89. And upon entering the room, it was very spacious. I liked that we each had our own bed. So the cabin had 2 twin beds plus a pull-out bed that was the queen bed. And I got the queen bed. And so after we settle our things in, we go up to deck 10, which is the Lido deck. And we go have our breakfast / lunch there because the buffets are open. So on deck 10, on the outside, there is a place where you can get cheeseburgers, and the other side is where you can get Mexican food, so burritos, tacos, a taco bowl. And inside they had a buffet which included, I think it was mainly American type food, so like roast beef, potato salad. And then there's also a salad bar and a dessert area. When I walked into the buffet area, I did not see any food that really caught my eye. So I opted to go back outside and get some Mexican food. I ended up getting a beef and shrimp burrito, and the shrimp tasted so good. I could tell that the shrimp was fresh. And so that's what I had for lunch. And then there were servers walking around with drink trays filled with souvenir cups that said BSB Cruise 2018. And so I bought one of those drinks just to have the cup. What I did not like was the server said that the drink would cost $17.50, but at the end of the cruise, when I looked at my itemized receipt, I saw that I was charged over $22 and some cents. So I'm still trying to see if I can find my receipt so I can possibly dispute that on my credit card. So my friends and I, we're in the Lido dining room, eating and chatting. And one of my friends sees on Twitter that Nick had tweeted that he wanted to play a game for the cruisers called Where's Nick Carter? And he said that he would give clues and that if you could find him, he would take a picture with you. So at that point, my cell service was not very good. So none of my social media was loading very quickly. So I thought my chances of playing and winning that game were very slim. But my friends thought, why not just go out and see what happens? So we leave the Lido dining room and we go up to deck 11 and just start walking around. We enter deck 11 on the side of where there are the water slides and also some loungers. And we take some pictures there. And then we continue walking around deck 11. And I remember we were walking, and I know we saw these 3 guys dressed in black rose tour shirts and they looked like they were on their way somewhere. What I thought was they were on their way to either go pick up a certain Backstreet Boy, I don't know who, somewhere private or hidden. They just looked like they were on a mission, and I didn't pay them much mind, basically. And it wasn't until one of my friends, Bonnie, she stopped and she started following these 3 guys dressed in Rose tour shirts. And I was so confused. I was like, why is she following them? And then my other friend Jamie was like, just go. And so there's a small group of us following these 3 guys dressed in Rose tour shirts. And I don't even know where we're going or what's going on, but we keep following until these 3 guys stop in front of the loungers that are in front of the water slide. One of the guys in the shirts then lies down on one of the loungers, and that's when the realization hits me that one of those 3 guys was Nick in disguise. So once I realize it's Nick, I stay nearby with my friends, and we're just pretty much watching to see what he does. So he just lies on the lounger like we're not there staring at him. He for a few seconds, he puts his hands behind his head and is like sunbathing. And then he takes out his phone from his pocket. I see him take a couple of pictures, and then he starts to record a video. And it's a video that he posted on his Twitter account, basically saying costumes don't work for Backstreet Boys, and that we were able to find him even with his disguise, which was a thin mustache, sunglasses, and a beanie. And then he flipped the camera so that it recorded all the fans that were standing in front of him, and I happened to be one of the fans in his video. So after he finishes recording the video, he then says, I guess I have to take a picture with you guys. And so his bodyguards that are with him tell us all to get in a line so that he can take pictures with us. At first, the line moves towards him. So whoever the fan was, they take a picture and then next. But since he wanted to take as many pictures as he could, he then changed it up and decided to just, if you had a phone, he would take it from you and just do a quick selfie and then move down the line himself to save time. So by the time he got to me, he took my phone, snapped 3 selfies really quickly, and then moved on. After I got my selfie, I thought that was it. I mean, I didn't expect to get a selfie so fast after boarding. I mean, I wasn't even really actively looking for Nick, and sure enough, he passed by me without me knowing. I mean, if I wasn't with my group of friends, I probably would have kept on walking and paid no mind to the 3 guys in the Rose Tour shirt. So after we all get our selfies with Nick, we then head back to our cabins to get ready for the emergency drill, which is mandatory. So after we get to what we call what they call a muster station. We sit and then they give us the drill. But I was so amused when the person who was in charge of seeing who was attending the muster station, she wasn't aware, or maybe she was, but I think she was not aware that the names of the people that she was calling out that weren't present were either Backstreet Boys themselves or people affiliated with Backstreet Boys. So like the first name she read off was Kevin Richardson, and we all laughed out loud. And then she then named Nick's bodyguard Mike Elgani. And then she named off AJ, and we all laughed again. But eventually she caught on that the names she was reading were Backstreet Boys themselves and the people affiliated with them. So she let it go that they weren't present. So after the muster station, once again, we have a few minutes to ourselves. I go back to my cabin to get the heart that I had created. Online, one of the Backstreet Boys related blogs thought it would be a great idea if during the sail away party, each cruiser would hold up a heart that says 25. So the day before I left Miami, I had made a heart very last minute, and my heart was a picture of me and Backstreet from June 15th, 2017. It was my VIP picture where I call it my Warriors celebration picture because I'm wearing my Golden State Warriors jersey. They had just won the 2017 NBA championship, and I wanted to do a celebration photo with Backstreet. So my heart was that picture plus the number 25 in there. And so after I get my heart, me and my friends, we then head up to the Lido deck where the sail away party was going to happen. The deck was mostly full already, so we didn't get a front view of the stage. We were off to the side, but during the party, when the boys came out, I thought we had a good view. The boys came out dressed as pirates, which I thought was so adorable. They went full out pirate. Like they had the ruffled white shirt. They had the, at least all of them except Kevin, because Kevin already has long hair. The other four wore wigs and hats, the pirate hats. And so they hype up the crowd and we sail off. Unfortunately, I didn't get any selfies with them during the sail away party. The closest I got was AJ. He was going up the stairs, but he was in a hurry to go up. So I didn't have time to like get in position and take a picture with him, but it's all right. And then after the sail away party was the first event in the show lounge. It was called Double Trouble. And I am in Group B, and that means I had late dining. I've always had late dining on all the cruises. It's a tradition for me. I prefer to eat later, and I just like the flow of the Group B schedule better than Group A. So we head to the showroom, and that's the first time I go in, and see how close we are to the stage. We are front row, off to the side, but it's still a good view. And so they randomly pick people to play the game, various games with Backstreet. Unfortunately, I'm never picked for these games, but it's okay. But hopefully someday I will be picked, because I'd love to interact with Backstreet Boys in a, I guess, non-singing environment where we're just goofing off and playing games. So, the game show is modeled after the Nickelodeon show Double Trouble, from what I know. And so first off, it's a mixture of answering questions and then doing a physical activity. So just from recalling what happened, like I remember there was this one game where it was kind of like musical chairs, but not. So it was the red team versus the blue team. So for Group B, on the red team, it was Kevin and AJ, plus a few fans. And then on the blue team, it was Howie, Brian, and Nick, and a couple of fans. So I remember for the red team, they had to do this chair game where they each sat in a chair. And manager Jen, who was helping host the game show, she would ask them a question, and if they had done what was being asked in the past, then they would have to move to their right. And if somebody does not end up moving to their right, but someone else does, then that someone gets to sit on the lap of that person. And I remember Kevin was kind of confused about, how do we lose this game? And we're all laughing because it's kind of true. Like, how do you lose that game? So the point of the game was to win. Whoever circulated in a full circle first would win. I mean, I can kind of see Kevin's point where, like, how can someone lose? Because no matter what, I mean, I think after asking so many questions, eventually somebody will make a full circle. But I remember one of the question was, have you ever played strip poker? And Kevin and AJ were the only ones to move. There were some other funny questions that I can't seem to remember, but it was AJ who ended up making the full circle and getting the points for the red team. There was also another physical game that involved a toilet plunger and toilet paper. So I remember the fan had to put a toilet plunger between her legs so that the wooden part was sticking out in front of her. And Brian then had to, without using his hands, had to get a roll of toilet paper into the toilet, the wooden part of the toilet plunger. So that was really interesting to watch. And then another game that I remember them doing was, I think it's called Coconut Smoochie. Basically, a fan and a Backstreet Boy. In this case, what I remember, Howie and a fan, they would have a toy coconut between them, and it would start like near their feet, and without using their hands and only their bodies, they would have to roll that coconut up their body until it reaches, like, I think their neck, or at least their mouth, thus Coconut Smoochie. And then I think one of the last games I remember involved having to toss, I think it was ducks. It involved throwing, I believe, ducks into different levels of baskets. And so there would be like the bigger basket at the bottom, and then there's one towards the middle, and then a tiny one at the top. And I remember Brian winning that for the blue team. And so after the whole game show, then it is dinner time for us. So me and my friends, we go to the dining room and have dinner. What I love about having dinner in the dining room is just the whole dining room experience. And I like that we can order basically whatever we can eat. I remember I ordered 3 appetizers and one entree and 2 desserts. I had warm melting chocolate cake for dessert, and that is one of the desserts to have on a Carnival cruise, especially with vanilla ice cream. Those two together are very good. So after we have dinner, we then go back to our cabins, rest up for a little bit, and then get ready for the first deck party of the cruise. So the first theme for the deck party is Fast Times at Backstreet High. And that is a play off the movie Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And so the theme is basically high school cliques. So you have your nerds, geeks, cheerleaders, jocks. And so back in high school, my sort of clique, I was part of the NJROTC, which is the Naval Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps class. I did that all 4 years. I made it up to the rank of lieutenant junior grade when I was a senior. So I decided to recreate that uniform that I used to wear every Wednesday in high school. So I went on eBay and I ordered a military style female black skirt that the officers in the Navy, female officers, would wear. And then I ordered a button down white shirt. And at first, I was going to put my ribbons and medals that I had earned in high school on the uniform along with my name tag. But then I decided I didn't want any possible damage done to my awards, and I didn't want the possibility of losing those awards because those awards have sentimental value to me and they are irreplaceable. So instead of pinning those to the white shirt that I had ordered, I decided to put buttons and pins of Backstreet Boys that I owned and I had never used. And I arranged them in a way that emulated the ribbons and medals that I had earned. Like I put buttons of the Backstreet Boys album covers up to, I think, either Unbreakable or This Is Us. I also had some buttons from when they were promoting their first US album at Walmart. And then as like an augulette for my left arm, I had a Backstreet Boys keychain lanyard that I pinned to my shoulder so that it would look like a military augulette. And then I wore my cover that still had my original rank of lieutenant junior grade plus an anchor on the right side. So by the time me and my friends are ready, it's past midnight, and we are so used to Backstreet Boys running on what we call Backstreet Time. For those who don't know what Backstreet Time is, it's basically they say something happens at a certain time, but it doesn't happen like an hour or 2 hours later. So we have this mentality that, even though the party is listed at starting at 11, that the boys probably won't be on stage until probably 12:30. So we thought we were okay. It wasn't until we had turned on the TV and changed the channel to the camera overlooking the Lido deck that we saw that Backstreet Boys were already on stage. So we hustled out of our cabin and went to the Lido deck, and sure enough, they were already on stage hyping up the crowd, and we're like, oh crap. But we found a spot on deck 11 overlooking the stage. We didn't have a front view because there were already people back there occupying the front view. But so we watched the deck party from afar. And what I liked about this deck party is they played a lot of the older Backstreet Boys songs, and it really looked like they were putting an effort into their deck parties, because in the past, just my personal opinion, the way I've seen it on previous cruises is they would get on stage for maybe 10-15 minutes, hyping up the crowd, and then they would disperse and either continue socializing with their close friends or their crew. But like I noticed, AJ would be hyping up the crowd. Even Nick was hyping up the crowd. I did not get any selfies with them that night. I was actually expecting them to disperse like they had done on the 2016 cruise and do selfie lines, but I noticed they didn't do that night, that they were more about being on the stage and hyping up the crowd that way. It gave me a little bit of a New Kids on the Block cruise vibe, because on the New Kids cruise, they don't do selfie lines at all. They are all about the deck parties and crowd interaction versus the selfie lines. So I did notice that the DJ had played the music of other boy bands that night too. Like, he played Tearing Up My Heart, Bye Bye Bye, and also Hanging Tough. I felt like I was the only person where I was at that was excited to hear the DJ play New Kids on the Block's Hanging Tough. I think around me, I was the only person singing out loud and the only person that knew all the words. So after that party, I go back to my room and then get a little bit of sleep and get ready for day 2. So I will go ahead and stop here and continue day 2 in the next episode. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come back for more.